Hi, I thought we'd do things a little bit different with this video. So there's two things I'm going to ask of you. Firstly, the usual like, subscribe and share. Do check the description box, do please read it. And the other thing I'd like to ask for 2 minutes of your time. The number 2 is going to figure quite a lot in this video. Let me start though by telling you of something I saw about a week ago now, and that is, should we say, 4 suns. So to give you a sort of visual picture, think of the current Japanese flag. You've got a circle and a background. So what I actually saw was a yellow sun with what looked like a burnt orange sky. That then changed. I'm then observing a green sun, and the sky, or the surrounding to that sun, has turned red. Then it changed again. The sun changed from green to blue, and the background changed to purple. Now in each of these 3 sequences, the diameter of the sort of circle of the sun didn't change one bit. But then on the 4th change, because 4 is a door, I saw, I suppose I could describe it like a black oval onyx, like an eye in a way. For a better visual, I refer you to an album cover, a band called The Left Field, and the album is called Leftism. It's similar to that. So what was I seeing? I would suggest it's stages of a returning vapor canopy, and the sort of black onyx is the Nemesis X, possibly. Talking of the Left Field album, I think it's the 5th song on the album. I should have checked the title, I apologise. I believe it's called Be Original. And the lyrics basically go, film starts, film ends, nothing is said in between. I was filled with conversation, no attention paid. Then the song, later in that song, it says, be original, choose your own path. Now here's the thing, to be original, no different from this video, what I'm saying here is not exactly original. I have notes here because it's a little bit disjointed and I don't want to forget anything. But there is nothing made that was not made. Sorry, there is nothing made that was not first made. So, in other words, there is nothing new under the sun, so how can you be original? Well, there is one way. Being original is to do things slightly different. Neville Goddard would end his lectures by saying, let us go into the silence. So this is why I said I'm asking for 2 minutes of your time. I'd like you to join me as we go into the silence. I'll explain afterwards why. Okay, I don't know if that was actually 2 minutes. I didn't check the time before starting that, but how did it feel? What went through your mind? Did it seem like dead air? Or was there something else? What would that something else be? We're in a play net, so let's play. What can we play with? It's something you know of. It's there and it's not there. It can be seen and yet it can't be seen. It can be in hand. It can be on your hands. It can't be closer than at hand, though. You can spend it wisely. You can waste it. You can lose it. You can chase it. You can create it. It's here and then it's not. 1 minute it is and then it isn't. What is it? Time. It's in the moment. You can have time on your side. You can have time on your hands, and so on and so on. So I thought what we do, I can't think of the word. It's something mentioned on archaics a lot, that we can look back in time, which is predicative of, or indicative of the future. Because time runs both ways. So what I've just done, I've taken you way, way back to before the collapse of the Tower of Babel, before the confusion of languages, and I have just spoken to you in a language, no matter what language you speak, that you'll understand or understand. You will have heard what I've said to you. If, of course, you are tuned in on the same frequency. Right, that's covered that part. So, yes, on the subject of time, let me take you back to the 1st of Aquarius, or, if you prefer, the 21st of January 2024, which it is not, but we use that. On that very day, I was 20,700 shars. Remember, a shar is a day, not a year. And if anybody can put a link into that song, please put it in the comments, because I'd love to hear it again. Then we moved, well, on the 21st of January, or Aquarius the 1st, I said I don't know if I'm going to be about for much longer. That was the previous driver, number 6. There was a miscalculation anticipating March the 21st or Aries the 1st. But after 20,777 shars, and I'm referring to the day count of this avatar, I said that something was going to happen, and it did, on Aries the 17th, or April the 6th. Some would call it the birth from above, the descent of the white dove, Just ways of describing the same thing. And at that time I said my focus is now on the midterms. So today, recording this video, which was started at 11:44, strangely enough, today this avatar is 20,991 shards, but the driver is only 214 shards. But, little calculation, we add 9 days from today, this avatar reaches 21. I think it was driver number 6 spoke of pontoon and pay 21s. Pontoon being a bridge. It's a metaphor. And it's up to you what you do. Do you stick? Do you twist? Or do you bust? So whilst the avatar hits 21, I reach 223, the opposite of 322. I'm just following the code of conduct with the numbers here. So let me explain what do I mean by driver. I've referred to this before. It's what is known as a walk-in soul. I happen to be number 7. So let's put this in material terms. You buy a second-hand car. It's had 6 previous owners. You probably know the 6th because you've done the deal with the 6th. The thing is, with the driver of the avatar, there's no loss of identity between 6 and 7. But it's like if you buy a second-hand car. Had there been 6 previous registered keepers, did you know the previous 5? Did you know how they looked after the vehicle? And so on and so on. How much service history do you have of that vehicle? Of course, the other interesting thing is whatever car you buy and become the registered keeper of it, what you'll begin to notice as you go about in your vehicle, you'll start recognizing and identifying drivers by the vehicle. The vehicle will be the same make, same model. Of course, you can take the basic vehicle, you can add wind deflectors, body kits, and such like, fancy wheels, fancy paint jobs, but essentially you'll still recognize that vehicle. So let's carry on with this material scenario. Imagine you go to work, you take the same route every day, and it may be somebody you know, but as you're going along, maybe coming the other way, you'll see this car, and you'll recognize the car, and you'll recognize the driver. You may wave, you may stop and have a conversation, I don't know. But there may come a time when that driver then sells that car on and it gets a new driver. But you still recognize the car, but now you won't recognize the driver. That is what a walk-in soul is. It's the exception to the rule. When you come into this reality, there's a reset, and the slate is wiped clean. You have very little memories which will soon dissipate by the age of 7, but they're still there. Whether you can access them is another thing. You might need a manual to identify such things. But essentially, you can see the external pattern, and you can put it into the context of the avatar is your vehicle that you move about in the material world. But consider the driver. So the 2 minutes of silence, the message, what you've heard will be down to what frequency you're on, and it will be a message that is applicable to you, not the avatar, but to the real you inside. To many it will fall on deaf ears. Some may get the gist of it, some may feel something from it. One thing I will say is within the last 3 days I have felt a very positive energy shift. There are big changes coming, which is to be expected when you attain 21, the coming of age. Right, what else did we wish to talk about here? Let's look at the Bible. There's a book in there called Psalms. Isn't it funny how the P is not sounded, it's silent. But if we put it back in, you've got Psalms. It's part of a serpent language, like silence. But Psalms, it's like when you trying to get somebody's attention, you go, oi, psst. It's like a hissing sound. It's a prompt. Psalms. In hand are palms. But now you have psalms because there's a spirit involved in it. So the question really comes down to all of us is, who are we? Why are we here? What's our purpose? We can find an answer to that in the Bible. Isn't it Jacob who goes up to Peniel and shall be known after as Israel? But let's break that down. Is Ra El or is El Ra? What is real? What is real to real? Certainly time is real to real because you can run it forwards and backwards. And you can bring it all into the moment. You can recall a memory. You can look at the past and see in the future. You've got a two-way mirror there. There's some other words like psychiatry, psychiatric. There's a thing that Lana A. Labonte talks about. When you spot it, you got it. So, as an example, if you are truly insane, you will recognize this is a crazy world. There's a certain amount of amusement in it. And that's really what we're here for, to amuse ourselves. But effectively, to ask the question, is Ra El or is El Ra? It's that knowledge of good and evil. Because there's a huge difference between having the knowledge and then acting upon that knowledge. The world is a stage after all. It's not just a stage for what is material here. It is a stage, it is a world stage. But the perception is the world is a stage relating to the material. But what if I was to tell you that the world stage is like a huge amphitheatre, an amphitheatre, that where things are played out. One of the things you can play out, of course, is pontoon. So what are you going to do if you get a 10 and a 6? You got 16. Now you can't stick on 15, but you can stick on 16. Are you going to risk saying twist, have another card? Have you been looking at the cards? Have you got any indication of what the likelihood of getting a 5 or under, so you don't go bust? It's also a game of chess. If we look at the chessboard, the 64 squares, what you'll see is an opposition, or two opposing forces, as it were. You have the king, the queen, the bishop, or the crook. Oops, sorry, I meant rook. You have 4 horsemen, and then you have 4 corners, 4 castles, 4 pillars. Interesting, huh? But in front of that, on both sides, there's an equal number of pawns, 16. What is happening, and has been happening since 2020, is the elimination of the pawns. Now, from one perspective, you could say it's horrible, it's evil. You can see it that way, yes. But is it? There's such a thing as a mercy killing. I feel the best example of that would be in science fiction, in Doctor Who, when you think of the Cybermen. What they were, what they have become, and that little switch called an emotion inhibitor. And when the emotions are switched back on, of course their head explodes. Not a pleasant prospect, is it? So what would you say would be the more cruel? Especially when everything is in hand. When it's all there to be seen, it is closer than at hand. And it shows in the palms. It's quite interesting. It takes a level of perception penetrating deeper and deeper levels. And not like in the sense of a rabbit hole where you just go deeper and deeper, but in the sense of the layers come away, the clarity of the vision comes through. I'd like to end now on a recap. Let's take the last, 370 days or so. I made a video, or actually, driver number 6 made a video, a sort of fairly desperate appeal of, I've got, I think at the time it was enough porridge for one meal, a little bit of rice, and I think a lemon or something like that, and absolutely no money whatsoever. Well, guess what? That has continued. But what is interesting in this whole experience, as each time we've got close to that point again, and it's something I've mentioned on video before, what has faded away is the anxiety and the fear of where's the next meal coming from, where's the money coming from. It's very simple. You just put into practice what Neville Goddard suggests. There's a playlist on this channel. Some of the lectures, and many of the lectures, will give testimony. Some of them would seem quite repetitive, but repeat until it becomes a second nature. I can tell you from experience that what Neville Goddard talks of is true, absolutely true. I'm going to talk more about this, and I'm going to show you a pattern to something in this material world that I can point evidence to. And I can point more evidence of its internal than its external. And it's interesting what comes out of it. Various perspectives, looking from the internal side and the external side. So the next video will be like an introduction to a playlist I shall put together for you. And I invite you to follow up with more videos from the channels that I shall be mentioning, because it will give you knowledge. But what you're really looking for is not knowledge, it's certainty. There's a Bowie song. It repeats the line, I don't want knowledge, I want certainty. Well, certainty is solid ground, coming up from a place of experience rather than theorizing on concepts and things. The whole purpose of going through this, if you heard what was said in the 2-minute silence, for example, you will most likely have the answers as to who you are, why you're here, what you are truly capable of, and the whole reason there is something in place here that seems to be stacked against you finding that. You can look anywhere out there to try and find it, and you won't find it out there. But if you go in, that's where you'll find it. And in the next video, in the introduction to the playlist I shall put together, I will prove this to you beyond any doubt. Is that not what is the sort of deciding of an outcome in a court, for example, beyond reasonable doubt? Reason able. But this is not about thinking. This is about observing the thoughts, observing what comes into the mind's eye, like seeing those 3 suns and then whatever that 4th thing was. It's definitely coming. You've got to decide for yourself. Are you going to play that game of chess? Are you going to find an opponent? Or maybe you're just going to be a spectator and watch the game play out and not take part in it. That's something I feel that has been probably televised over the last few days, and rather a lot of people have been feeding their attention, wasting their time, spending their time unwisely by following it. It's strange how one of the most intelligent comments ever made was by a character that was labelled with a low IQ. I refer to Forrest Gump when he says, life is like a box of chocolates. But just think about that. You're presented with a selection. But what happens if you don't like the taste of any of that selection? There is another option to just decline and not accept anything that is being offered from that box, which I would suggest is a Pandora's box. Anyway, just to end on a slightly lighter note, something that sort of occurred to me. The sort of celebrity alphabet, shall we say. So we've got John D. Rockefeller, we've got Donald J. Trump. Could we find any more that would give you the entire alphabet. I could suggest Abraham Lincoln, but that's cheating. But isn't it funny how some characters just have an initial, and they're known as that, like John F. Kennedy or JFK. It's another little observation, but I thought it might be an interesting thing we could all sort of put together between us and see if we can come up with a sort of alphabet list of names, just for a bit of fun. Something to maybe pass the time, but maybe there's more in it. Maybe there's an alphabetic code that will come to light out of that. I don't know. I'm just speculating on that one. Right. I think that's just about covered everything in this video. Hopefully that's clarified a few things. It's given you things to ponder, and may the message in the 2 minutes of silence have come through to you loud and clear. As always, unconditional love to you all.